3 weeks. That's how long it had been since the funeral. 3 weeks since I stood in that cemetery watching them lower my wife of 11 years into the ground. Everyone kept telling me it would get easier. They were wrong. I wasn't at the storage unit to find closure. I was there because the rental company sent me a final notice. Past due. Funny how bills don't stop just because your world does. I didn't even know Frances had rented this place. Found the key in her desk drawer while sorting through paperwork, tucked inside an envelope marked personal. Do not open. Should have listened to that warning. The unit was in a facility 20 minutes outside town. Not the kind of place you'd expect from someone making executive-level income. Basic. Cheap. The kind of place people use when they don't want anyone asking questions. I punched in the code the manager gave me, and the metal door rolled up with a screech. Boxes. Dozens of them. Stacked neatly against the back wall. I grabbed the closest one and tore it open. Photo albums I'd never seen. Cards from birthdays I wasn't at. Receipts from restaurants we never went to together. My hands started shaking. Not from grief. From recognition. I knew what this was before I found the proof. The pen drive was in a small wooden box, the kind you'd buy at a craft fair. Sitting right on top like it was waiting for me. A yellow sticky note on it read, "An unforgettable night," in Frances's handwriting. Cute. Romantic. Made me want to throw up. I sat down on the concrete floor right there in that storage unit. Pulled out my phone. The drive had a dozen video files. I clicked the first one. Hotel room. Decent place. King-size bed. And there was my wife with Kenneth Hoffman. Kenneth. The guy I'd known for 8 years. The guy who came to our house for barbecues. The guy who cried at Frances's funeral and hugged me like he'd lost a sister. I watched 3 minutes before I had to stop. Not because I couldn't handle it. Because I needed to stay functional. I checked the dates on the other files. The oldest was from 3 years ago. 3 years. I'd been building a company, providing for us, trusting her, while she was doing this. The locations got worse. Our office conference room after hours. Kenneth's house, obviously. Then the garage. Our garage. The one attached to our house. Where my car was parked on the other side of the wall. I must have been inside watching television while they were out there. The thought made my jaw clench so hard I thought my teeth would crack. I went through every box after that. Methodically. Like I was conducting an audit. Because that's what this was now. An audit of a failed marriage. More photos. More receipts. A burner phone with messages that made my stomach turn. She'd documented everything. Why? Insurance? Sentimentality? Didn't matter now. By the time I finished, 4 hours had passed. The sun was setting. I loaded everything into my truck. Paid the final bill to the storage company in cash. Drove home in complete silence. No music. No podcast. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and my own breathing. At home, I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Frances and I used to have coffee every morning. Where we'd planned our future. Where she'd kissed me goodbye the morning she died. I opened my laptop and went through the company's corporate structure documents. Something I should have checked more carefully years ago. 71%. I owned 71% of the company's shares. Frances had 29. We'd structured it that way at founding because I'd put in the initial capital and she'd come in as a partner later. Kenneth was an employee. Vice President of Operations. Good salary. Benefits. Profit sharing. But no equity. No ownership. He was talented, sure. But he wasn't a founder. So why was he acting like he owned the place? I'd been so buried in grief these past few weeks that I hadn't been to the office. Hadn't checked email. Hadn't returned calls. I'd let everything slide because I was supposedly mourning. Turns out, that's exactly what someone was counting on. I pulled up my email. 73 unread messages. Most were condolences. Some were from clients. But there were 5 from Kenneth. The subject lines got progressively more aggressive. Need to discuss company direction. Urgent. Board meeting scheduled. Important changes coming. Your presence requested but not required. The last one, sent yesterday. Transition complete. We should talk. Transition complete. Interesting choice of words. I drafted a response. Deleted it. Drafted another. Deleted that too. No. Email wasn't the play here. I needed to see what Kenneth had done. Needed to understand the full scope before I made any moves. In chess, you don't capture the queen until you've locked down the king. I spent the rest of the night going through company files remotely. Kenneth had been busy. Very busy. He'd moved into the CEO office. My wife's old office. He'd terminated 2 longtime employees and hired 3 new ones. All people he knew from his previous job. He'd opened a new corporate account, started 3 new vendor contracts without board approval, and he'd scheduled a meeting with our biggest client for next week. He was building something, or rather, taking something. He thought the throne was empty, thought he could just sit down and declare himself king. The funeral flashed through my mind. Kenneth standing there in his expensive black suit. That speech he gave about Frances's vision for the company, about carrying on her legacy, about making sure her work wasn't forgotten. Everyone thought it was beautiful. I thought it was a job application. Now it made sense. All of it. The affair. The secret storage unit. Kenneth's sudden confidence. He'd been planning this. They'd been planning this. And then Frances died, and he saw an opportunity. Didn't even wait a month before making his move. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Heard you might be stopping by the office. Don't bother. You're not needed anymore. Okay. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I smiled. First genuine smile I'd had in 3 weeks. Because Kenneth had just made a critical mistake. He'd shown his hand. Revealed that he was worried about me showing up. Which meant he knew his position wasn't as secure as he pretended. I typed back one word. Monday. His response came fast. Don't waste your time. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. Monday was 3 days away. That gave me 72 hours to prepare. 72 hours to document everything he'd done. 72 hours to build a case that would end him professionally. The personal part? The betrayal? The videos? That pain was mine to carry. But the business part? That was about to become very public. And very permanent. I picked up my phone and called my attorney. Bailey Oliver answered on the second ring. I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning, I said. And bring everything we have on corporate governance and shareholder rights. This is going to get complicated. What happened? Bailey asked. I'll explain tomorrow. Just trust me. Monday is going to be interesting. I hung up and looked at the pen drive sitting on my kitchen table. An unforgettable night. Frances got that right. This was going to be unforgettable, just not in the way she'd planned. Friday morning, Bailey Oliver's office downtown. I arrived 15 minutes early with the pen drive, a folder of corporate documents, and a list of every questionable decision Kenneth had made in the past 3 weeks. Bailey was already waiting. Coffee ready. Conference room secured. This is why I kept him on retainer. No questions. Just preparation. Walk me through it, he said. I handed him the pen drive. My wife was having an affair with Kenneth Hoffman for at least 3 years. These are videos she kept. Hotels. Our office. Our house. Bailey's expression didn't change. Good lawyers don't react. They process. And Kenneth is? Vice President of Operations. No equity. Employee only. He fired me Tuesday. That got a reaction. Bailey's eyebrows went up. He fired you? The majority shareholder? He doesn't know I'm the majority shareholder. Or he's gambling that I won't fight back. I spread out the corporate documents. 71%. Right here. Dated and filed. Frances had 29%. Kenneth has nothing. Bailey studied the documents for 10 minutes. Flipping pages. Checking signatures. Verifying dates. Finally, he leaned back. This is airtight. You own this company. Kenneth has no authority to terminate you. None. This is wrongful termination at minimum. Possibly fraud if he's been representing himself as having authority he doesn't possess. What's our move? Emergency board meeting. Monday. I'll draft the notice. You have the right to call it as majority shareholder. We'll present your ownership documentation and remove him from any leadership position he's claimed. Bailey paused. But there's a bigger question. Why did he think he could do this? I'd been asking myself the same thing. He thought I'd roll over. Grieving widower. Too broken to fight. Maybe he figured I'd take a settlement and walk away. Or he thought Frances had more equity than she did. That stopped me. What do you mean? Bailey pulled out his tablet. Started taking notes. If Kenneth and your wife were planning something together, she might have told him she owned more than she did. Or promised him she'd transfer shares. Or maybe they had some side agreement we don't know about. The thought made my hands curl into fists. They were planning to push me out. Possibly. The affair gives them motive. The timing gives them opportunity. Her death just accelerated whatever they had planned. Bailey looked at me carefully. I need to ask. The accident. Has anyone questioned it? No. Police report said brake failure. Mechanical issue. Might be worth a second look. I nodded slowly. That same thought had been circling my brain since yesterday. Let's focus on Monday first. Get Kenneth out. Then we'll see what else shakes loose. Bailey spent the next hour drafting the board meeting notice. As majority shareholder, I had the right to call an emergency session. The other board members were Francis's brother Emmett, our CFO Violet, and an independent director named Charles Rush. All would receive formal notice by end of business today. What about Kenneth? I asked. Does he get notice? He's not on the board. He's an employee. He'll find out when we tell him. Bailey smiled. It wasn't friendly. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Conference room. Security should be present. You think he'll make a scene? I think he's been running your company like he owns it for 3 weeks. When you take that away, yes, he'll make a scene. Good. Let him. Let everyone see exactly who Kenneth Hoffman was when his mask came off. I spent the rest of Friday documenting everything. Screenshots of unauthorized contracts. Photos of Kenneth in Francis's old office. Records of the employees he'd fired without board approval. By evening, I had a case file 3 inches thick. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Emmett, Francis's brother. I hadn't spoken to him since the funeral. Got a strange email from Bailey Oliver. Emmett said, "Emergency board meeting Monday." That's right. What's going on? Kenneth said everything was under control. Said you were taking time away. Of course, Kenneth had been managing the narrative. Kenneth doesn't speak for me, or for the company. That's what Monday is about. Silence on the other end. Then, he said he was acting CEO. Temporary appointment until things stabilized. Who appointed him? More silence. Longer this time. I assumed you did. Or that it was in Francis's succession plan. There's no succession plan. And I didn't appoint anyone. Kenneth appointed himself. I could practically hear Emmett's gears turning. That's not legal. No, it's not. Which is why we're having this meeting. I need you there Monday. 9 a.m. sharp. I'll be there. He hesitated. Is there something else going on? Something I should know? Not yet. Not until I had all the pieces in place. Monday. I'll explain everything then. Sunday, I went to the office. Alone. Used my key card. The building was empty. Good. I walked through every floor. Kenneth had already started redecorating. New furniture in the CEO office. His nameplate on the door. Photos of him at company events displayed prominently. He'd even changed the access codes to certain areas. My own office was exactly as I'd left it 3 weeks ago, except someone had been through my files. Drawers slightly open. Papers out of order. Kenneth looking for what? Documentation? Proof of ownership? Too late for that now. I sat at my desk, pulled out my phone, texted Kenneth. See you tomorrow morning. Conference room. 9 a.m. His response came 5 minutes later. Told you not to waste your time. I'm busy tomorrow. I typed back. It's not optional. This is an official board meeting. You'll want to be there. I'm not on the board. Employee matters are handled through HR now. My jaw tightened. Employee matters. He just classified himself as my superior. Then come as an interested party. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. No response after that. Didn't matter. Security would make sure he attended. I'd already coordinated with them. I left the office around sunset. Drove home. Ate dinner standing at the kitchen counter. Couldn't sit at that table anymore. Not after knowing what Francis had done. Not after seeing those videos. Tomorrow I'd start taking my life back. Not just the company. My dignity. My self-respect. Everything Kenneth thought he could steal from me. I set 3 alarms for Monday morning. Laid out my suit. The dark gray one Francis always said made me look intimidating. Perfect. At midnight, I was still awake. Staring at the ceiling. Not from anxiety. From anticipation. Kenneth had spent 3 weeks playing king. Tomorrow, he'd learn the difference between a throne and a borrowed chair. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is a mistake. Walk away while you still can. K. I stared at that message. Read it twice. Then I smiled. Kenneth was scared. Good. He should be. I didn't respond. Responses implied there was a conversation to be had. There wasn't. Tomorrow wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. I finally fell asleep around 2 a.m. When the alarm went off at 6, I was already awake. Showered. Dressed. Triple-checked my documentation. By 8:30, I was in Bailey's office for final prep. Ready? Bailey asked. I thought about Francis. About Kenneth. About 3 weeks of being played for a fool. More than ready. Remember, stay calm. Present facts. Don't let emotion drive the conversation. You're the majority shareholder asserting your rights. Nothing more. Nothing less. And if Kenneth gets loud, then he gets escorted out. That's what security is for. Bailey gathered his files. Let's go end this. We arrived at the office at 8:45. The board members were already there. Emmett, Violet, Charles Rush. All three looked confused. None of them knew what was coming. Kenneth walked in at 8:58. Saw me sitting at the head of the table. His face went white, then red, then stone. "What is this?" he demanded. I looked at him without expression. "Have a seat, Kenneth. This won't take long." Kenneth didn't sit. He stood there glaring at me like I'd broken into his house. "I have a meeting with a client in 30 minutes. Whatever this is, make it quick." "Cancel it," I said flatly. "Excuse me. You don't have authorization to meet with clients. You're not a decision maker in this company. You never were." His jaw tightened. "I'm the acting CEO. I have full operational authority." Bailey cleared his throat. "Mr. Hoffman, there's no such thing as acting CEO in this company's bylaws. There's no provision for it. No appointment process. No documentation." Kenneth's eyes shifted to Bailey, then to the other board members. Looking for allies. Finding none. Frances and I discussed it. Before she passed, she wanted continuity, leadership stability. "Interesting," I said, because Frances didn't have the authority to appoint a CEO either. That power rests with the board, and the board answers to the majority shareholder. I slid a document across the table. That would be me. 71% equity. Documented. Filed. Legal. Kenneth picked up the paper. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear yet. From anger. "This doesn't mean anything. Frances owned half this company. Her shares transfer to the estate. The estate makes decisions now. Frances owned 29%. Bailey interjected. Not 50. The corporate structure has always favored the founder, which is our client, not your late colleague." The color drained from Kenneth's face. Not all at once. Gradually, like watching someone realize they'd bet everything on the wrong horse. Emmett leaned forward. "Kenneth, if you thought you had authority here, who told you that?" Kenneth's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "Frances said the company was 50-50. She said they were equal partners." "She lied," I said simply. "Check the incorporation documents yourself. It's public record. Always has been." Violet, our CFO, was already pulling up files on her laptop. She'd been quiet until now, but her fingers were flying across the keyboard. "Confirmed. Founding documents show 71 and 29% split. Filed 12 years ago. Never amended." Kenneth slammed his hand on the table. "This is garbage. You people are trying to push me out because you can't handle that I'm better at running this company than either of them ever were." The room went silent. Charles Rush, the independent director, spoke for the first time. "Mr. Hoffman, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully." But Kenneth was past careful. He was in full defensive mode now. 3 weeks. That's all it took for me to turn this place around. Cut the dead weight. Bring in actual talent. Land new contracts. This company was stagnant under their leadership. I fixed it. "You fired 2 employees without board approval," I said. "You opened unauthorized vendor contracts. You moved into an office that wasn't yours. You scheduled client meetings you have no authority to attend. That's not fixing anything. That's theft. It's called leadership. It's called fraud." Kenneth pointed at me. "You've been useless for 3 weeks. Hiding at home. Not answering emails. Not showing up. Someone had to step up. I was grieving my wife." "Yeah? Well, maybe if you'd paid more attention to your wife, she wouldn't have needed someone else." The room froze. Emmett stood up. "What did you just say?" Kenneth realized his mistake immediately. Tried to backtrack. "I didn't mean anything. I'm just saying he wasn't around much. Everyone knew that. But I caught it. That slip. That admission. How would you know what my wife needed, Kenneth? I worked with her every day. We were close colleagues." "Close colleagues," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" His eyes narrowed. "What are you implying?" I pulled out my phone. Set it on the table. I found a storage unit Frances rented. Didn't know about it until the company sent me a final notice. Inside were boxes, photos, receipts, and a pen drive labeled "An Unforgettable Night." I let that hang in the air. Want to know what was on it? Kenneth went completely still. Statue still. "I don't know what you're talking about." Conference room 3. After hours. Ring any bells? I leaned forward. Or maybe the garage. My garage. While I was inside the house. Emmett looked between us. "What is he talking about?" 3 years, Kenneth. You and my wife. 3 years of meetings. Hotels. Our office. My property. I kept my voice level. Clinical. And then she died. Conveniently. Right before you decided to take over her position. Her office. Her company. That's insane. But his voice cracked. Just slightly. Bailey pulled out a folder. Mr. Hoffman, we're prepared to present evidence of an inappropriate relationship between you and the deceased CEO. We're also prepared to demonstrate that you've been misrepresenting your authority within this organization for the past 3 weeks. The question is whether we do this privately, right now, or publicly through legal channels. Kenneth looked trapped, cornered. His eyes darted to the door. Security was standing just outside. He'd seen them on the way in. This is blackmail, he said weakly. This is consequences, I corrected. You made a play for my company. You failed. Now you get to decide how messy the exit is. Violet closed her laptop. For the record, I want it stated that I had no knowledge of any of this. Kenneth told me he was acting under board authority. Charles nodded. Same. He represented himself as having been appointed by Frances before her death. Emmett was staring at Kenneth with pure disgust. You were sleeping with my sister. Then you tried to steal her husband's company. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Emmett's voice was rising. Explain it to me. Make it make sense. Kenneth said nothing. There was nothing to say. No version of this story made him look anything other than what he was. I stood up. Here's what happens next. You resign. Effective immediately. You sign a separation agreement that includes a non-compete clause and a confidentiality agreement. You return all company property. You leave this building within the hour. In exchange, we don't pursue legal action for fraud, misrepresentation, or wrongful termination. And if I refuse? Bailey answered that one. Then we file a lawsuit. We present the videos. We depose every employee you've interacted with. We examine every decision you've made. And we make sure your name is attached to corporate fraud in a very public, very permanent way. Your choice. Kenneth looked at each person in the room, looking for sympathy, finding none. Finally, his shoulders sagged. I want severance. No, I said immediately. 6 months' salary. Standard package. You're lucky I'm not having you arrested. Take the deal or don't. But you've got 30 seconds to decide. He stood there, breathing hard, fists clenched. Then, slowly, he nodded. Fine. Where do I sign? Bailey slid papers across the table. Kenneth signed them without reading. Probably a mistake, but not my problem. When he finished, I took the documents back. Security will escort you to your office. You have 15 minutes to pack personal items. Nothing company-related leaves with you. Understood. Kenneth didn't answer. Just walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. You think you won. But you didn't. You lost her. You lost everything that mattered. This company is just a building. Then you shouldn't mind leaving it, I said. He left. Security followed. The door closed behind them. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Emmett spoke. I'm sorry. I should have known. Should have seen something. Not your fault. They were careful. I gathered my papers. Violet, I need a full audit of everything Kenneth touched in the last 3 weeks. Contracts, expenses, hiring decisions. Everything. I'll have it by end of week. Charles, I want to discuss long-term governance. Make sure this never happens again. The independent director nodded. Absolutely. I'll draft some proposals. I looked at Bailey. And I want that accident report pulled. Full investigation. Something about this doesn't sit right. Bailey's expression was grim. I'll make calls today. Emmett stood up. You think Kenneth had something to do with Frances's death? I think the timing is suspicious. I think a lot of things about Kenneth are suspicious. And I think we need to know for certain. I headed for the door. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming on short notice. Outside, I watched through the window as Kenneth loaded a box into his car. Security standing nearby, making sure he didn't try anything stupid. He looked up once, saw me watching. For a moment, our eyes met. Then he got in his car and drove away. Gone, but not forgotten. Not yet. Bailey appeared beside me. That went smoother than expected. He cracked too easily. Someone that arrogant doesn't fold that fast unless they know something worse is coming. You think he's worried about the accident investigation? I think Kenneth Hoffman is a man with secrets. And secrets have a way of coming out. I turned away from the window. Let's find out what else he's been hiding. Tuesday afternoon. Bailey called. We need to meet. Not at the office. That tone meant trouble. I met him at a diner outside town. He had a folder waiting. Police pulled the accident report, Bailey said. The brake lines were cut. Deliberately. Someone wanted that car to crash. I gripped my coffee cup. Certain. State investigator confirmed it. Homicide investigation is open. They want to talk to you Thursday. Rule you out. Bailey slid the folder across. There's more. They recovered deleted messages from Frances's phone. Text conversations between Frances and Kenneth. From the week before she died. Kenneth, we need to accelerate the timeline. He's getting suspicious. Frances, he doesn't suspect anything. He never does. Kenneth, the audit is coming up. He'll see the discrepancies. Frances, then we move before the audit. 3 days before the crash. Kenneth, you sure about this? There's no going back. Frances, I'm sure. One problem removed. Then we control everything. Kenneth's final message came 2 hours before Frances died. It's done. No going back now. I closed the folder. Frances wasn't the victim. She was the architect. Kenneth executed her plan. Except he sabotaged the wrong vehicle. Same make, same model, same garage. He got confused. Frances died by her own design. Do they have enough to arrest him? I asked. They're building the case. Messages, forensics, physical evidence. Week or two. Bailey leaned forward. Frances was planning your murder. I already knew. Had known the moment I read those messages. How long? Week, maybe 2. What do they need from me? Alibi. Timeline. Home security footage. I had cameras on the garage. I pulled up footage from the night before Frances died. 2:30 a.m. Kenneth's car. Figure in dark clothes. 15 minutes in the garage. Then leaving. He'd come to kill me. Got the wrong vehicle. Killed his accomplice instead. I forwarded everything to Bailey. Thursday. Police interview lasted 3 hours. They verified I wasn't involved. Mr. Hoffman is our primary suspect, the detective said. We'll arrest him early next week. This will be public. Media attention. Prepare yourself. Let them. I've got nothing to hide. Violet completed her audit. Kenneth embezzled $70,000 through fake vendor accounts. I filed that with police too. Added charges. Friday night. Unknown number. Kenneth's voice. Drunk. This is your fault. If you'd just let go, none of this would have happened. Let go of what? My company. My life. She deserved better. We deserved that company. You killed her, Kenneth. Your mistake. Silence. Heavy breathing. They're coming for me. The police. You could stop this. Tell them it was mechanical failure. I laughed. Why would I do that? Because I loved her. You murdered her. While trying to murder me. That's not love. That's psychotic. I didn't mean for her to die. But you meant for me to. Either way, you're a killer. I looked out at the city. Enjoy your last weekend of freedom. Monday's going to be memorable. I hung up. Blocked the number. Monday morning. Bailey texted, Kenneth Hoffman arrested 1 hour ago. First-degree murder. No bail. I forwarded the message to the board. Then got back to work. 6 months later. The trial. Kenneth looked broken. Thinner. Grayer. He sat in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, watching the prosecution destroy him. The evidence was crushing. Deleted messages. Security footage showing him in my garage at 2:30 a.m. Forensics proving sabotage. Financial records of embezzlement. Witness testimony. The story, Kenneth and Frances planned my murder. Kenneth failed. Frances died. He tried stealing my company anyway. Day 3. My testimony. The prosecutor walked me through the storage unit discovery. The videos. The affair. The corporate coup. Short answers. Factual. Kenneth's attorney tried breaking me. You were angry at your wife? Yes. Angry enough to want revenge. Angry enough to want justice. Different things. You gained everything from her death. I gained nothing. I lost who I thought she was. Facts, not gains. Day 7. Kenneth testified. Huge mistake. He claimed Frances was the mastermind. Said she pressured him. Said love made him irrational. Then the prosecutor played the recording. Voice message Kenneth left Frances 2 days before the crash. Kenneth's voice, I've got everything ready. Brake line cutters. Gloves. Wednesday night when he's asleep. Garage side door. 10 minutes. Friday morning, Canyon Road. No guardrails. He'll lose control. Courtroom went silent. The prosecutor asked, Does that sound reluctant, Mr. Hoffman? Kenneth said nothing. You planned this. Prepared this. Executed this. When your victim became your lover instead, you tried profiting from your own crime. Correct. I loved her, Kenneth whispered. You killed her. Day 9. Jury deliberated 4 hours. Guilty. Everything. First-degree murder. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. Fraud. Sentencing. Life without parole. The judge was brutal. Mr. Hoffman, you planned and executed murder. Your incompetence doesn't reduce your guilt. You then tried profiting from this crime. This court finds your actions calculated, malicious, and remorseless. Kenneth looked at me once as they led him away. I stared back. Nothing left to say. Outside, reporters swarmed. One statement: justice was served. Kenneth Hoffman murdered my wife while trying to murder me. He'll pay for that. I'm moving forward. Bailey walked me out. How do you feel? Ready to stop looking backward? I drove to the office. Didn't go home. I'd moved downtown during the trial. Fresh start. Emmett called. Life without parole. Good. Yeah. Francis would have destroyed you. Kenneth would have finished it. Instead, you're running the company. Justice served. Didn't feel like winning. Felt like surviving. I created a foundation the next month. For people who rebuild after betrayal. Who refuse letting someone else's evil define their future. Kenneth lost everything. I kept moving. Kept building. That was victory enough. 2 years later, the company tripled in size. New contracts. New leadership earned through merit. I sold the house. Bought a place overlooking the river. Clean lines. No history. The foundation grew. Helped 32 people rebuild after betrayal. Watching them move forward settled something in me. Emmett became CFO. Earned it. We never talked about Francis. Nothing left to say. Kenneth sent letters from prison. I burned them unread. I dated occasionally. Trust takes time. Either way, I was fine. Board meetings ran smooth. No drama. Just business. Exactly what I needed. Sometimes I thought about that storage unit. Finding that pen drive. If I'd ignored it, would Kenneth have succeeded? Would I be dead? Probably. But I acted. Fought back. Won. That's the difference. Victims let things happen. Survivors decide what happens next. Kenneth chose murder. Francis chose betrayal. I chose justice. They lost everything. I built something better. The Foundation's gala was next week. I'd speak about resilience. About refusing to let darkness define your path. People would share their survival stories. I'd listen. That's what mattered now. Helping people stand back up. Kenneth got life in prison. Francis got a grave nobody visits. I got tomorrow. Best outcome possible.